following up now on a story we first reported last night. The Quincy Police Department is proposing the installation of automatic license plate readers throughout the city.
WGEM's Charity Bell joins us with answers to some of those questions from last night's meeting. Charity.
Daniela McKenzie, last night we reported a number of questions about how this technology could affect people's privacy rights. Tonight I spoke with an attorney and civil liberties expert who both provide some clarity on this program proposal. The Quincy Police Department proposes putting automatic license plate readers in locations like the bridges entering and exiting the city and along Broadway. The Quincy Police Chief says the cameras will capture photo identifiers of your vehicle as leads to their investigation of stolen vehicles and other crimes.
Currently, there's no regulations on the use of these systems in the state of Illinois.
Illinois American Civil Liberties Union Director of Communications and Public Policies, Ed Yonka, says installing the cameras isn't innately a violation to the Constitution. However, he says it creates room for concern, like who will have access to the data, how long will the photos last, and who monitors if privacy policies are being violated.
The important thing to remember here is this is really a very powerful surveillance system. If I know where you go in your car, if I know where you travel at any given moment, I know a lot about you.
Associate Attorney Aaron Wilson-Legler says the question becomes, at what cost is the surveillance to your civil liberties and freedoms?
On the one hand, we have a long history of Supreme Court precedent holding that things that you put out into the public, such as your license plate, are not protected. There's no expectation of privacy in that because you put it out there in the public.
She says, on the other hand, like in the 2018 Supreme Court case of Carpenter versus the United States, the Supreme Court held that police needed a search warrant to access an individual's location log.
There's a lot of similarities between the information that was at issue in Carpenter and the information that would be gathered by these automatic license plate readers.
Yonka says there are steps the police department should take to ensure privacy policies are in place, like holding public audits every 6 months to review if those policies have been violated.
Those are some of the things that I think, a community ought to think about and frankly, ought to have a public, open, transparent debate about before such a system is implemented.
And if the cameras are in fact helping to reduce crime.
That the camera system poses too many threats to privacy without any any attendant benefit. And so the thing is not to have that system.
This conversation continues tomorrow night. The Quincy Police Department will host a second public meeting at the Quincy Town Center at 6 p.m. Charity Bell, WGEM News.
All right, thank you, Charity. And if you missed our reporting last night about the first presentation, you can find that on WGEM.com. And there you will also see a list of the proposed camera locations plus other opinions on the matter.